Steve McQueen says this. He says we're all gonna die. Okay. And he says, I'm not saying this to come here and this was at the SAG screening, and be negative. We are given a short time here, and you as an actor have to show up and give it all 100% every day. And if you're not going to do that, go home. Which I love, because that's actually everything that I'm always talking about. Go all in. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for a better haircut or a better headshot or a better scene or a better scene partner or better circumstances. It's just those are all excuses and defaults to keep you from going all in. So here you see, somebody who is doing some really amazing work saying, you gotta go 100% all the time. And then here's a direct quote. He says, you're an actor. You can't show a bit of reality. You gotta show the whole of reality. You're there to portray that. It's just like a dancer. You're not gonna say, I'm only gonna dance on my left foot. I'm not gonna dance on my right. That's not gonna happen. No. You have to be able to put yourself out there, otherwise you're not an actor. For me, it's very, very simple. Okay, I think the physics of that is very simple. What is being asked of you in your work when you're working with those kind of people is to bring yourself so courageously to the work that it creates magic. I think it shouldn't necessarily be magic, because I think that's the way we should, as actors, are conditioned to try to show up and work through our stuff and hopefully work with directors who help facilitate you opening up to create courageously. But I think that the thing is he says for me it's very, very simple. Here's one reason why it's not so simple, and we just have to keep slightly tweaking this so you understand it, so you're more freed up in the fuck it. Which is, actors, everybody in this room, every person on the planet has this challenge, but I think actors doubly so, is that your self-worth is tied up, and myself included, all creators, our self-worth is too identifiable with our product, meaning how we audition, whether we get the job, what is our IMDb ranking, if you have an agent, how well your movie is doing in a festival, whatever it is. Basically, your own inherent belief of self is tied up to what you're giving. That's not correct. You are not, I always talk about this, you're not just an actor. You're not just a male. You're not just female. You're not just the clothes you wear. You're not just the car you drive. The spirit of who you are transcends that. But when your own self-worth is identified with, oh my God, the product, what happens? Well, I'll tell you. One is an example, and then two other general things that we want to correct. So this girl called me yesterday, a student here at the studio who shall remain nameless, but she's in a big movie that's premiering tonight, actually. It's a big studio movie. And she has a pretty substantial role, but she called me sobbing, freaking out yesterday, like hysterically. It made me so nervous because she was so freaked out that she basically had read something in the trades about, she's basically been cut out of the movie. And she doesn't know why. And of course, what is the actor going to do immediately? Every single one of you would do what she did, is go to, oh my God, I suck, I'm the worst, why did they do that? I'm never going to work again, my career's in the toilet. I mean, I get it. Of course, I try to just, I lectured about this last year about Occam's razor, which is a term that basically scientifically says the simplest explanation for something is the explanation. So we could just take a breath and then maybe realize, oh, maybe it was a time constraint. Oh, maybe there was something in the editing that didn't really work in her favor and, that B story got cut, or whatever the case is, right? Because there are always other explanations that also are probably at least equally truthful than your own triggered, oh my God, what's wrong with me? So this circles back to this idea of our worth is tied up to presentation. Well, first you want to become identifiable to that, and secondly you want to try to correct that. Because when your self-worth is tied up to the product, one of two things happens. Number one, you're going to start to go into auditions and you're going to be, I used this term the other day that I hadn't thought of since I was like, I don't know, when I first moved here in LA, I was at a party and I asked this guy, I was like, do you want to go out on a date? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, is there something wrong with me? What's wrong? And he said, no, I don't do that. And I was like, well, go out on a date or go out on a date with me? And he said, no, I just don't date at all. I'm risk averse. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I don't take risks. And I've always loved that word in the sense that that is what happens, though, with actors. You go into the audition room and you become risk averse because your worthiness is attached to, how am I being perceived? Are they going to like me? I got to get this job. I got to get it because my agent's going to drop me if I don't get good feedback. All these things, and continue it goes. So what happens is you actually neutralize yourself. You play it safe. You don't go for the corners. That's a tennis term. The US Open just happened the other night. You don't go for angles. You don't give yourself the permission to fail courageously. Right? So what happens is this. You neutralize yourself. That's the first thing. Or the other thing, which is equally tricky, is that your own self-esteem and self-worth occurs when you get good feedback or you get the job based on your worth of product. Yeehaw! You're on top of the world. And when you don't, wah, wah, you're going to drink a bottle of tequila. Right? It's true. It's tricky, you guys. It's tricky. I get it. Part of it is the human condition. You can't let your self-worth be determined by this out here. You're not a product. The spirit of who you are is not a product. So that's what we have to keep correcting. And I think if we can just keep always leaning toward uncertainty, leaning toward the unknown, leaning toward the risk in the room, in your life, in relationships, in the work, working with directors who demand that of actors, then you begin to realize, oh my God, that's really why I signed up for this whole crazy thing of being an actor. That's really it. That's why you signed up for it.
Did you ever love somebody? Did you ever read